question that's been in the air since President Trump took office is coming to a head. Will the president defy the Supreme Court? The court ruled the administration must facilitate the return of a man mistakenly deported and sent to a notorious prison in El Salvador. Kilmar Abrego Garcia came to the U.S. illegally as a teenager 13 years ago. Now he's married to an American, has a son and a job. An immigration judge ruled he should not be sent to El Salvador, but he was. Trump says he won't bring him back. So, Lisa, is this the constitutional crisis that people have been fearing?
You know, it may well be. It seems at least we're headed in that direction. And because the administration just seems to be acting with impunity and stonewalling and refusing to answer and seeking to delay and, you know, telling us things that don't seem to be real or make sense. And so I think, yeah, I mean, no question it's headed back to the Supreme Court, where they'll have to do more than they did on the emergency appeal that the administration filed regarding the district court's order. You know, my thoughts on this are, you know, and I said this before, our system just wasn't designed for this circumstance, right? For a situation where you have the president flouting the law, regardless of what he says he's doing, and Congress is missing in action because impeachment was the remedy. That was the constitutional remedy for this situation. Because I know a lot of pressure has been placed on the courts, and rightly so, because they're the only player left on the field. But that's, you know, that's my concern, is because people have said to me, you know, when are the courts going to stand up and, you know, do something? And I'm like, what is it that you want them to do? Now, admittedly, there are some steps that they can take, and we can talk about that. But as we head back to the Supreme Court in this case and presumably in others, the question that I keep thinking about is, you know, at what point does the court's own and the members of the court's own survival instinct, in terms of the survival of the institution, at what point does that kick in, regardless of their, you know, judicial philosophies, regardless of how much they believe in the unitary executive theory or the, you know, the power deference to the president in the area of foreign relations or whatever? You know, are they participating in their own self-destruction? And at what point will that stop?
Well, but also along those lines, at some point, or maybe they're even doing this, maybe don't come out fully against the president because they're worried about what happens. You know, no,
absolutely. I mean, and that goes back to Marbury versus Madison in 1803. That was the concern then, was that, you know, Justice John Marshall avoided, you know, directing the executive, in that case President Jefferson, to take an act that he, you know, might refuse to take. And the court found a way to assert its authority as having the power of judicial review without, you know, again, confronting the executive in a frontal way. But again, there has to be a point at which the court, you know, does something to protect the institution.
Well, they're going to get plenty of chances.
They are.
They're going to get plenty of chances. I think this shows the Trump administration a couple of things that it does routinely. First, it's just cruel. So it's taken somebody that admits an error and sends them to this hellhole in El Salvador, and then laughs about it with this dictator, the cool dictator from El Salvador. So, but what I don't see from the Trump administration is any real long-term strategy. So will it keep poking the court and saying, you know, you're not going to do anything, you're not going to do anything until this court does? The other thing is, this wasn't a full-blown case to the Supreme Court, right? It was the shadow docket in a way. And when the court has been hesitant to making full decisions based on not a full court case. So it was nudging, nudge, nudge, nudge. Well, this administration doesn't take nudges. So it's going to go back. But in the meantime, we have a man, and who knows how many others, this is the one we know about, that may be in this horrific prison system. And it does make you think, could they do this to American citizens? Could they do this to green card holders? It's a scary situation that eventually is going to go back to the Supreme Court. But between now and then, there could be other cases. There are other cases that they're just going to avoid, because cruelty and lack of long-term strategy is the way this administration operates.
And I think there isn't a long-term strategy because they know they made a mistake. And they had to quickly decide strategically, did they want to own the mistake or did they want to try to use it to their advantage? And I do think all concerns about safeguards that have been mentioned are wise, but the administration does care to some degree about public opinion. And I think they're calculating that this is a good fight for them to take on. It's not an American citizen. It's someone who came here in an undocumented fashion. And some in their administration acknowledge the error, and the courts have recognized that. But you have people like Stephen Miller in Trump's ear saying, hey, we can spin this and we can use it in our favor, because the only area that the president is polling well on right now, particularly with Republicans, is immigration. And the more that we and everybody else talks about this, and we should, it's important, it is cruel, we are concerned about democracy, we are not talking about the economy, where Trump is totally getting hammered. So I think these are some of the calculations in play, and unless public opinion goes south on Trump on this issue, they're going to continue to poke the courts and obfuscate because they think it's working for them.
We don't know a whole lot about the man in question either, Kilmar Garcia, Abrego Garcia. I mean, there was at some point an immigration hearing, and because there had been a report that he was a member of this El Salvadoran gang, and he may. I mean, we don't really know that.
There's been a lot of reporting, yeah. Yes, you're right. The judges have had mixed reviews on that to some degree. But he's someone whose family had a family business. They got extorted by a local gang. They threatened to kill his brother. They threatened to rape his sister. And then the family said they moved around El Salvador, so we need to get out of here. So that's why he came here. So we do know those types of things, and it's a tragic story.
It's a double hearsay that he may have been part of that gang, and then the policeman who said it has been investigated. But I think you're right, though. They want to keep it away from the economy. So every time that somebody mentions this, it stops them from mentioning this crazy tariff system. And I think you're right there.
So he is one of I think the initial group of 238 prisoners who were sent to this prison. The idea of sending somebody to a foreign prison, I mean, these people who have been sent, many of them haven't been charged with a crime, either here or elsewhere, but some have, and some are truly criminals. But what about this idea of just sending somebody into a foreign prison?
Well, I think one of the theories here was that, many of these people who were sent on the planes that didn't turn around were Venezuelan, or alleged to be Venezuelan, members of a Venezuelan gang. And there was, at one point, one of the arguments I've heard that the administration has made is that Venezuela was refusing to take them. And so I don't know, who knows what is the truth here. But it just seems like Trump found this way to, hire this, the Salvadoran president to, build this massive prison facility and pay, contract it out, and
millions of dollars of taxpayer money is going.
And he says he wants him to build 5 more. One thing, Ty, I wanted to return to is this notion of the shadow docket or the emergency docket. I mean, so this, the administration is continuously appealing adverse orders on this emergency docket, directly to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court doesn't have to take these cases. Right. And so, first of all, it's putting a tremendous strain on the courts. Secondly, you're right. I think the court is wise to not make definitive rulings on incomplete records. That's not the way we do business in the legal system. And so I'm hoping that they'll start to say, no, we'll take your appeal once it comes up through the normal channel.